What's up guys, it's Christian. I've got my 2018 Audi S3 here, making some modifications today. We're doing an intercooler, getting a Do88 intercooler, and we're going to be doing the DBV2 charge pipes. I've seen a lot of videos doing charge pipes, doing intercoolers. A lot of them are all on the GTI or the Golf R. I want to make something a little bit different for the Audi S3 specifically. Alright guys, so as far as the car goes right now, again 2018 Audi S3. I got a couple modifications on it. It's stock right now, so it's not any stage 1 or stage 2. Hoping to jump right to stage 2 here pretty quick. I've got the Integrated Engineering intake kit, which you see there. I've been running with that for over a year now. It's a great intake kit. The 034 Motorsports turbo inlet pipe, which you can see way back down in there. And I'm also using the Racing Line catch can system here. So you can see that it's posted here, and we've got the washer fluid kit as well hooked up with that. As far as suspension mods go, I'm running with an APR dog bone as well as a 034 rear sway bar. Gotta do the rear sway bar. It rides on a rail if you do, and subframe inserts as well. As far as the interior goes, I've got the paddle shifter extenders. I wanted to get them from Leo Motorsports, but they weren't making them in red, so I got them from Axmoto. I believe it's Axmoto. I'll put the link down below. I got the Diamond car mats down here. If you're going to get them, make sure you get them from Diamond car mats. Don't get an off-brand. I've heard a lot of bad stories about off-brands, creases, and poor quality. Diamond car mat ones, no issues. I have a couple of friends who've gotten them, and they've gotten them from Diamond car mats, and they've always been great. Also got down here the Audi rings, because you kind of fun to when you open the door. People like that, get a kick out of it. As far as the exhaust system goes, I'm running with stock chrome tips. You can see there. I'm using a Res Air Delete. It's the OEM Res Air Delete. I was able to pick one up when I bought the car. I hear they're really hard to find, if not impossible nowadays. I've also got a downpipe. It's a trackside downpipe. I'll be installing that in a later video. I just got it, so it's going to be part of going to stage 2. Right now I'm still stock. So once I get the tune on, then I'll add that as well. I need to get up on a lift. I've heard it's really hard to get the downpipe out of this car. So getting me on a lift will make that a little bit easier for me. So taking a look at some of the equipment that we're going to be installing. I've got the Do88 intercooler here. It's a 58mm wide intercooler. Pretty much the biggest one you can get. The flow is the best as far as all the studies that I've seen go, as well as this intercooler is a little bit better for longer periods of time. I've seen other intercoolers that they're great if you're on a drag strip, maybe a little bit better than this one, but if you're tracking or you're rallying, this seems to be the one to get. Also, the turbo seems to spool up a little bit quicker with this intercooler. We'll have to find out for ourselves. A couple parts come with it, some clamps, some foam inserts here, as well as some silicone tubing. These inlet and exits are 70mm rather than the stock 63mm openings, so a little bit bigger, a little bit more flow. Taking a look at the charge pipe kit from DBV2, it differs from other standard charge pipe kits on the MQB platform because they try to maximize the amount of aluminum and minimize the amount of silicone. This helps out a lot with silicone bulging in high boost applications, and really just driving that air to the engine. Got a methanol poured in here. This will be for the mass sensor. A couple other things here. We've got the turbo muffler delete. DBV2 will be installing that as well as instead of using the standard clamps, they're using T-bolt clamps. They're a little bit wider, and hopefully they help out with any potential boost leaks. Alright, so I took the liberty of cleaning it up a little bit, and let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to go ahead and take out the intake kit. We got a number 7 socket.
All right, so first what we're going to do here is we've got to disconnect the battery. We already got the intake kit out, so that's obviously the first thing if you haven't done that already. And then disconnecting the battery. Then we'll go ahead, we'll start taking off some of the screws here, and we'll get the front off. Okay, so the battery's out now. I took a little extra time to clean everything up in there so everything's nice and pretty for when I put it back together. I'm going to go through, I believe it's these 3 screws are next. I believe they're T30s. And then we'll go ahead around the corner and we'll do both wheel wells on the inside here. There are 4 screws that need to come out. It'll help us start to get the front of the grill out. Okay, so I'm actually going to take this front splitter off here. That way I can just get it cleaned up and ready to go. That for me is just a few screws. And then I'm going to go ahead and take off the belly pan underneath as well. All right, so I had to go ahead and take the wheels off here. Forgot to do that. Don't forget to do that. Loosen them up before you lift the car. It's a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead here, and there's a couple of screws in here. One that's facing downwards there, and there's one back hiding in there. We'll have to undo. I'm going to go ahead and maybe undo some of these screws in here in the wheel well to make some more room so this can pull back a little bit easier and I'm not bending it up and ruining it. So just for reference, the first screw that I got out was right here. These are T30s, not T25s. And the second one that I'm trying to get out is way back in there. I don't know if you can see it. Right. It's about 8 inches back. There we go. All right, so that was a little bit of a pain. Here's what I ended up doing for my socket setup. I've got a 6-inch extension to the T30, and then I've got a angle bracket, and then just another section here. This is a 10-inch section. You don't really need that. You could do like a 4-inch realistically, but it gets you in there. The bolt kind of comes more at this angle, so if you try to come in this way, it's hard to catch it, or I should say the screw, not the bolt. So that's why it was so difficult to get off. Go ahead and do the other side. Okay, so the second side, 2 bolts are off. We're ready to go ahead and take the front off the car. I put a box down here with a towel over it just because I'm not sure how many cables are still connected to the front and what I'm going to need to do there. We'll find out. I know there's a few. And yeah, basically to do this, you just grab from the one side, you break it open, and on the other side as well, and then the whole thing should just drop right on down. Okay, that came off pretty easily here. We've got a couple things we got to take care of. We have a cable here, connector. It's probably going to one of our sensors up front for proximity. And we have the windshield washer fluid, which is down there. So the kit that I got for the intercooler actually has a little cap that goes over to plug that. We'll go ahead and use that there and go from there. If you don't have a cap, improvise, I suppose. Find something that maybe you can wrap around it to prevent all your fluid from coming out. Worst comes to worst, it's windshield wiper fluid. So you drain it and you put new stuff in. Okay, so now that we've got the front bumper off, we're going to go ahead and start making some disconnections and start tearing things apart here. So we can get this housing here out and swap out the intercooler. So I've looked online at a lot of different videos, looked at a lot of different manuals. There's not really much on the S3 specifically and the 8V, the facelifted model. So I took a look at it. I've identified there are 5 points or 5 disconnects we're going to have to make. There's a safety sensor down in here. The safety sensor down in here. We're going to have to disconnect front sensor here, temperature sensor here, as well as the horn here. I believe that should be it. We'll have to take the wiring harness out because there's no connections upstream. And then we can go ahead and start working on the bolts. Crash bar. This here is all one piece, so we'll be looking at taking out these couple screws here and this one here for the light. Also have to do disconnect for the hood latch. And I think I've got a trick to that. We'll go ahead and we'll open this up and we can take that piece out. And that should disconnect that there. And yeah, we're also going to go ahead right in the beginning and just disconnect our inlet and outlet of the intake kit, or the intake, the stock intake right now. Okay, so a couple things here. There was a 4th bolt that I decided to get out here for the headlight, so that gives it allows it to rock a little bit more. Also, I found 2 more clips, one on each side. You can see the one clip here, and there's a mirroring one on this side as well. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect those, and I got the other 2 bolts out there. I'll kind of continue working this piece out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and undo this latch here. So I'm going to go ahead and if you just pull these tabs open, this top will pop right off. I'm going to pause the video here. I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so here's the piece. We just popped it right off. You just push outwards on these tabs with your fingers and it just lifts right up. Got another piece in here. It's kind of a wheel, so you got the cable going in and it sits right here. Okay, so there's that. Easy as that. You just pull this piece out of this little hole here and the cable sits that way. We can go ahead and pull this cable up and then we should be disconnected there. Okay, so a couple other things we did here. We took out the last headlight bolt, which is back in here in the corner, and there's one on the opposite side as well. Also, we took out, there's a 5th bolt in here. It's just a bolt, no other big braces for the bar here, but it is also needs to come out if we want to get the crash bar out. Next, we're going to go ahead and we'll remove these 2 screws. They look like they're set screws. I was trying to get at it from this side, but I'm not sure if this is glued on as well as with the clips and everything. I don't want to force it too much, so I'm going to go out this route. Okay, so we've got everything in the front ready to go here. I'm going to go ahead and start taking off these clips here. Got to be super careful. Bend them inwards and then pull out. I watched a couple of videos on it and it looks pretty straightforward, but we'll find out. All right, so we've got it off finally. I got one successfully off. Unfortunately, the other one I broke, so I'll have to go pick up another one. I screwed up and didn't buy one. Definitely go ahead and buy one before you do this build. That way, if you do break one, you've got a spare. It's really tricky, especially with the newer facelift model. They put this bracket in here, so you can't get behind here and push on the this bracket here to kind of help release it. So you got to get a screwdriver here, and you're finagling with things and Takes a good bit. If you can get this bracket out, props to you. I was able to kind of get around it a little bit at the end, but it's definitely not easy to get out. Probably I would say the hardest part so far. And go from there. So now we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna lift out the radiator here. So it's just the 4 tabs on both sides. Take that off, and then we'll go ahead and take out our intercooler. There should be a couple clips right here on either side, and we'll check for the clips out down there in the back, right down here. All right, the intercooler is finally out. There was just the 2 tabs on the top here for that back piece, and then you've got the 4 here in the front for the radiator. So we got it sorted out. A little bit of cleanup to do in there. We'll just kind of dress it up a little bit, get ready to go. There's a lot of junk. And then we'll go ahead, we'll get the new intercooler in, and we'll have to do some cutting and trimming here. So we'll do a little bit of that. After that, we'll go ahead and put everything back together. Oh, actually we'll be doing the charge pipes first, I lied. So we'll do that. According to the Do88 specs, I just put these on for now. I know this one's broken, so I'll have to take it off when I finish up the install. But just going in, I did a test fit on it. They also have some foam pieces that they have you put on the sides, and a couple of these little spacers here that go in there, a little bit of adhesive. When I did the test fit, confirmed that the step 25 here is something that we need to do. So there's these little tabs that slide down, and they slide down for the radiator on the other side. And we're just going to need to go ahead and trim them off on both sides. Then we should be good to go. So just for reference, this is the spot that we're going to be trimming. It's going to be down here. It's going to be on this side of the radiator, on the passenger side, and it's this section right in there. There's this little piece sticking out, and it's preventing it from sliding in. Can go ahead and start working on pulling apart these charge pipes. So here's the existing inlet, and here is going to the engine. So we're going to undo this screw here. It's probably, that's just a flathead, okay. And we're going to have to do, this should be a Torx, probably a T30. We've got another one over here. This is probably a 7mm socket. And there's a couple down below. We'll also have to take out the MAF sensor. So we'll unplug that and take that out. And we'll be swapping out the MAF sensor itself onto the new charge pipes. So the Do88 charge pipes are a little bit different. They don't actually attach to any of these attachment points like here. I talked to them and they said that that wasn't necessary because there's so much aluminum. It's rigid in its own sense. We'll find that out. Once we get these charge pipes off, we're also going to have to go in here and get that turbo inlet off. So it's going to be a little bit more. And we'll swap that out for the turbo muffler joint.
Okay, so taking a look underneath the vehicle here, working on those charge pipes. You can see the one hanging down here, and the other one is here. The connections to unscrew are actually right here, and they're really hard to get into. You've got a pipe in the way here, and a couple of here. So what I'm doing is I'm running with my T30 at an angle, and I'm able to sneak in there and then just ratchet it out.
Okay, so now I've got the charge pipes out, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the DBV2. Just kind of started fitting things in here. With a charge pipe to from the intercooler to the engine. Already put the MAF sensor on. One of the things with the MAF sensor that I noticed was that if you want to put it in the same orientation, you have to plug it in and then screw it down. So I chose to do that versus trying to make more make more room on the cable, because it's tied up, it's splitting up there. And yeah, I'll go ahead and we'll start putting that in. All right, so we've got the one charge pipe in here, and we're going to go ahead and get the second, the two charge pipes inlet side coming from the turbo muffler delete. Starting out, we got to get the turbo muffler delete out. So there's 3 screws there, Allen keys, and we'll replace it with the new one, turbo muffler delete from DBV2, right here. And here's the charge pipe. The charge pipe in now, good to go. It's still disconnected from the bottom until we get everything pushed back together. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do some trimming. I took a look at some of the trimming guides for other intercoolers and try to find out where the best locations will be to trim. Looks like right down this line here, up and around, and on the sides, and then in the back, as well as over on the side here. I'm kind of going off the Wagner intercoolers. It's roughly the same size, their trimming guide.
Alright, so I ran out of memory on my GoPro, so this is where this video is going to end. I spent about 2 hours working and cutting and drilling to create enough space for the intercooler and condenser. It's very difficult to get in there, especially with the Dremel, so try to find something maybe a little bit bigger so you can get the right angles and get in there to cut. Once you get in, you'll find that the driver's side typically snaps a little bit better than the passenger side. Went through, did additional cutting and drilling, additional cutting, and we were still having a lot of issues. I ended up getting a friend of mine. We're about 1 millimeter from getting the tan clips to snap back in to close the pack. It's extremely difficult to do, and we couldn't find anywhere where there is any rubbing or anything preventing the pack from closing. What we were able to do is on those tan clips, there is a hole which fits perfectly with an M6 screw, and we're able to screw in and kind of winch the pack closed together. Finally, they would clip in, and then we were able to close the pack and then continue buttoning up the car. The rest of the process after that's pretty straightforward, but putting the pack back together and doing the cutting and drilling is going to be the hardest part of the entire process. In total, between the intercooler install, the charge pipe install, and the additional cleaning that I did, I spent about 17 hours for the build, which is a lot more than I was expecting. Granted, 5 hours were just trying to cut and put the pack back together. After talking with Do88, they did have a cutting guide, but admitted they didn't have experience with the newer Audi S3s, which may have led to why this is such a difficult process. Finally, if you're performing this install, I'd recommend trying to rotate the headlights further outwards or remove them entirely. That'll help to open up the pack a bit more and make the cutting easier. And also, the rubber grommets that the intercooler sits into, don't remove those. Those are a pain to get back in, and I spent a good hour working to get the ones that I removed back in. So was it worth it? I'd say so. The Do88 intercooler does a great job at keeping the air cool going into the engine, and it helps the turbo to spool a little bit quicker. We'll find out this summer as I continue to drive the car. Thanks again to Do88 and DBV2 for all the support and help, and we'll see you around on the road.